Check this out, 598 cubic inches. We've got low buck versus high buck. We got screaming horsepower versus brute torque. It's all on this episode of Engine Masters. This is Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL, and this is another one of those episodes where I am personally completely stoked because this is gonna be cool. I've got a 598 cubic inch short block, and we're gonna show you two completely different combinations on it, one of which is like low buck and super low end torquey, and the other one which is high buck and has horsepower that you will not believe for an engine with a 10-to-1 compression ratio. All right, let's give you the big picture here. This is a big block Chevrolet. They came out in 1965. They're still super popular for drag racing, great for trucks. You see them in a lot of Chevelles and Novas and things like that. But the days of having a 454 big block and thinking you're cool are kind of waning. Let's be honest, it's over. Because everybody's got a 496 or a 540 or a 555. Not everybody has a 598. Now, what makes this thing cool is that it is a short block that you can buy out of the box with a warranty from Blueprint Engines. It's a new product. I talked them into making. They had this 598, 725 horsepower crate engine, but by selling just the short block, it means that you can use the cylinder head package that you want to do and make it cheap or high end, like you'll see in this episode. What makes the 598 great is that it is a low deck block. It's a stock production block deck height. It's 9.8 inches. Often if you're shopping for huge cubic inches in a big block Chevy, like a 572 or a 632, it's a tall deck, 10.2 inches. The problem with that is you can't use the parts off of your existing big block. You need to buy a different intake manifold. They often take different headers. It doesn't fit in the car as good. You're not gonna fit a brake booster, stuff like that. Whereas this one will take all your stock components. Here's what I've done. The camshaft is a super cheap hydraulic flat tappet. It's a Comp Cams XE274. The cylinder heads are a regular production Chevrolet iron rectangle port. They came off a Gen 5 crate motor. There's nothing special about them. Go to the swap meet, you're a chump if you pay more than $500 or $800 for them. The intake manifold is a used Edelbrock Performer RPM dual plane, and up top, I also went to the bottom of the budget pile. The Brawler line of carburetors is a new thing from Holley Performance, and they're Chinese parts. They're assembled and tested in the United States. They're just like a Holley configuration. This thing at Summit is $415, which is like half the price of the carburetors we normally use. This one's an 850 double pumper, and we've been pretty happy with it. So that just makes a really low buck way to put together a pretty impressive engine. The problem is it's strangling airflow and it's not gonna make killer horsepower, but I think it's gonna be incredibly impressive on the torque curve. So now we gotta go hang the thing on the dyno, lube it up with some AMSOIL, and find out if I completely fumbled this or if I am a hero with this low buck combo. What do you think? We'll find out right now. In this episode, we're gonna build this engine into two like radically different combos, and one of my points is to show you that you can buy a short block like this and do all kinds of different things with it, but that doesn't mean you're gonna use the same oil, and this time I've got a three-way cocktail of AMSOIL to tell you about. First of all, our base combination has a flat tappet camshaft in it, so you have to break it in with break-in oil, and that's what this AMSOIL product is right here. We've actually already done that, but I wanted to make sure that you did not forget that that is a critical step. Now, in the first combination here, this thing is gonna be running at pretty low RPM. It's gonna be like a typical hot rod engine that you would just use on weekends and things. And for that, I'm gonna use the Z-Rod 1030. The important thing being, this is a high zinc oil. Once again, that is critical for the flat tappet camshaft. Now, when we go into the next combination with this engine, it's gonna be running much more extreme RPM. It's gonna be making a lot more horsepower. And at that point, it's more of a race engine, and I'm gonna move to the Dominator racing oil, but in the same 1030 rating. Right now, we're gonna sauce it up with that Z-Rod before we go to the very first dyno test and prove to these guys that this is actually a good idea. Have you ever run anything like this?
No.
Not on purpose?
No, never on purpose.
Never on purpose.
Actually, never accidentally either. I mean,
Well, you see it all the time with small blocks with stock heads and a little cam or something, but it's the 598 cubes that makes this weird and good.
yeah, puts it completely out of that range of normalcy.
What's your opinion?
I'm gonna wait and see, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably the smart thing to do.
I'm going to reserve
See,
commentary until I see it.
What that really means is, I don't know.
Yes.
You look like you really like it, Brule.
Watch this. Run it. What do you think?
What did it make peak? I didn't look at the horsepower number.
Roughly 715 pound-feet and 540 horsepower.
Wow.
Look at this. It's making peak horsepower at 4,700 RPM.
Wow.
That's way, way below what you would expect. So we're looking at a torque peak of 714.3 pound-feet at 3,500 and 545 horsepower at 4,700. Now, 545 horsepower is pathetic for a 598 cubic inch engine, right?
Well, it's not even 1 horsepower per cubic inch.
Exactly. It's completely, it sucks. But look at this. It makes virtually 700 pound-feet, 688 pound-feet at 2,500 RPM.
That's what makes it a diesel.
Right.
Yeah.
And then look, it's flat. It makes more than 700 all the way to 4,000 essentially. I also think if a guy already has a 454 in his Chevelle and he's running around with a turbo 400 and like a stock 308 rear gear, all he needs is this short block, throw it into his existing parts, and it will be really fast without having to spend extra money on overdrive, because this kind of torque can pull a highway rear gear and still be really fast. And when it starts smoking the tires, it will never stop.
No.
Ever. It'll just keep going.
What's kind of cool about this illustration is it just shows you how low you can go. And you can just keep moving everything up if you want by just kind of changing camshaft up to a point with this cylinder head. There's a lot of room to move the engine speed up.
You
Yeah,
think so?
Change things. I think with this head, you can still move it up some. It's never going to be a 7,000 RPM motor with this many cubic inches in this head, but maybe you can get it to 5,500 for peak power or something. I mean, I still think it would move everything up if it had like a 248 at 50 camshaft.
If you did that, would it make significantly more than 545 horsepower, or is 550-ish the limit of an 850 and this intake and those cylinder heads?
Yeah, cylinder head, we'd have to look at the flow number on those heads, but it may be getting close.
If you move the peaks up, you'll move the horsepower up too.
But not necessarily.
It can shorten the difference between peak
Right.
torque and peak power, because once that head's saturated, I mean, if that head flows 320 or 330, how much power can it make? I mean, theoretically, it says it makes 660 or something, but I think this head, if I remember right, it flows about a CFM per cc, so I'm thinking it's around 310-ish.
Okay.
That's not too bad, actually. So you should make over 600 horsepower cam to take maximum advantage of the flow.
So it could, but then it would start to give up this torque curve, and it's not going to idle at 800 RPM. It's not going to have 17 inches of vacuum.
It'll still make that torque potentially, but it's not going to have all that drivability and smooth idle and, you know, all that stuff way down low.
It is absolutely the argument in the example of a torque motor versus a horsepower motor, which is what I'm trying to do here. And I think when people say, oh, it's a torque motor, what they really mean is that it makes more torque than horsepower. And that's what this is to the extreme. What makes this strange is that the power peak is below 5,252 RPM, so therefore it makes way less horsepower than torque, because the formula for horsepower is torque times RPM divided by 5252. So horsepower takes into account engine speed and torque does not. Torque is a measurement of basically work, how strong you are. And this thing is really, really strong down here. There's no replacement for displacement, right?
I like it.
How about more airflow with displacement?
Well, that
We
did.
find that one
That's
out.
step 2.
Okay.
Ready to wrench?
Yeah.
I don't think the Steves were completely convinced about the coolness of my low buck engine package, probably because it peaked horsepower at 4,700 RPM, which is ridiculous, and partially because they know what's coming, which is this. a combination that is much more in line than the stuff we're used to dealing with to make big, high-end horsepower. So what we're gonna do here is swap the cam and the cylinder heads and the intake manifold and the carburetor. We're gonna use the same short block, same oil pan, but totally change the character of the engine, and we're gonna do it with Brodix cylinder heads, which I haven't used in a while, and I'm really looking forward to it because we've all been just drooling on this cylinder head as we look at it. This is a Brodix BP BB3 Plus O. Now the O means that it is an oval port. If you look at the shape of this port, it's not a perfect rectangle like a conventional big block Chevy rectangle port, but don't let that fool you, because those heads that we just tested, the iron ones, they're like 310 or 312 cc's volume on the inlet runner. These are 365. This head is advertised to flow 450 CFM at 800 valve lift. That's ludicrous for what this is. It has a 2.350-inch intake valve. And the CNC port work on this thing looks amazing. It'll take 800 thousandths lift from the factory. Now, what makes this so cool though, is that it uses a conventional valve train. Many times when you're shopping for big end trick big block Chevy heads, or for any race engine, they require a dedicated shaft rocker system. This one does not. As a matter of fact, we're gonna use the same Crane Gold rockers that we use on the other combination. So that's cool. What's also neat is that Brodix sells an intake manifold that is made exactly for these inlet ports. You can see they've got the same shape to them, and they also port matched them. So this is like a sweet combination of a giant single plane manifold custom designed for this intake. Up top, this carburetor is a Holley Dominator in 1250 CFM. I figured we were gonna need a lot of airflow to feed this 598 cubic inch engine. Now lastly, we changed the camshaft. What we had in it before was a hydraulic flat tappet, and now of course, we've got the solid mechanical roller camshaft. It is from Crane. It's a custom grind cam specified by Steve Brule, and so you can't just get a catalog part number for it. You have to order it special. If you want to duplicate our combo, this is an R-274/4334-2S-10. Now that 10 means it's on a 110-degree lobe separation angle. The duration at 50 thousandths tap at lift on this thing is 274, 284, and the lift is in the neighborhood of 0.730 inches. So it is a pretty big, healthy Crane solid roller camshaft in this thing. So now you know exactly what our engine combination is here. You can duplicate it yourself. The question is, do you want to? Well, we'll find out when we look at the horsepower numbers, and I gotta tell you, we have one Achilles heel. That is the compression ratio. The pistons in that blueprint short block are gonna give us 10.0 to 1. Honestly, we've all talked about it. We'd like to see 11.5 to 1 with this deal to run on pump gas, but I think it's still gonna be really strong. We won't know until we go in the cell, bolt all this stuff to the 598, and make a pull in anger and cross our fingers for 800 plus horsepower. Steve's setting the initial lash on the valves. I'm gonna test fit the intake. This thing is gonna be sweet. And it fits perfectly. But we wanna run a vacuum pump on this thing instead of running a bead of silicone. We're gonna have to figure out some cork. What Steve's working on right now is what's called a stud girdle. So it uses a really long poly lock, which is the thing that holds the rocker arm down. And it is a clamp that goes around each one of those poly locks to stabilize all of these rocker studs so that they're not wobbling around with the high spring pressure and big lift and potentially RPM of a solid roller cam. This thing doesn't really have an RPM problem, fortunately, but this is still gonna add valve train stability since we don't have a trick like shaft mounted rocker. It's a regular old stud rocker. This is the same rocker we took off that other engine on the stock heads. Does yours go right?
How big is your Dominator?
1250.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Why'd you put the small one on? They make a 1420.
I asked you, you wanted this one.
Yeah.
Well, the old one was the Freiburger combo. This is the Brule combo.
I like the Brule combo way better.
Probably. So
yeah.
we got the whole Brodix setup dialed. Steve Brule is now gonna tune this thing up while we go hide in the corner, and then we'll come back and find out how much power this thing makes. All right, I think you guys are about to be a lot happier with this engine.
It's a little more what I'm normally doing.
I know.
I suspect I'll like it a lot better too.
This thing's gonna be stout, watch this.
You're the odd man out, Freiburger.
I know. That's more stout than I expected by quite a bit. I didn't think 10-to-1 compression ratio would get us there. So essentially we just bolted on 300 horsepower.
That would be a cover blurb.
Yeah, I know. Not even essentially, we did just bolt on 300 horsepower.
Almost exact, actually a little better than 3.
So this thing just made 774.9 pound-feet of torque, and up top, 853 horsepower at 6,300 RPM. Now, what blows my mind actually is how much more torque it made than the small combo. It just bumped it up. But look how flat it is. What's it making down here at 4,500?
About 774.
Yeah, wow. 762. Yeah. So a lot of people will look at that, I think, who are not familiar with these types of things and go, oh, well, this made more torque, so this is more the torque engine. But the whole key is the RPM range at which it happens.
Even down at 3,600, it still made 673, so that is a beast.
So that's the overlay of the iron heads versus the Brodix top end combo. These red lines down here are what we did with the tiny camshaft and stock heads. And look at that. That is what's going on. But this is a real visual that tells you that even though this is making way more torque, I think when people think of a torque motor, they're thinking of torque that is easily drivable at low RPM at throttle
torque
position.
At lower engine speeds, not at max output of torque.
I know you guys think I was cracked walking into this test, but what my goals were for it were first to find out what happens if you basically put 454 parts on a 598, and second to talk about the difference in a torque motor and a horsepower motor, and it backfired on me a little bit that the horsepower motor also made more torque. But what are your takeaways from this? I mean, there's more engine dynamics going on here than we've really talked about. What has it made you think about?
Well, like you were saying, I do a lot of this stuff. The high horsepower stuff. The low horsepower thing makes me start thinking about all of those things, the intake manifold. I mean, it almost makes me want to go put the other combination back on and order 6 camshafts and 6 intake manifolds and a couple of cylinder heads just to try and really get that up and kind of take that other viewpoint of everything.
Yep. How about you?
It tells me that the torque motor thing is just bogus. Guys will talk about, oh, it's a torque motor when they don't make any horsepower, but torque is horsepower and RPM. Like you'll see guys with a 6-cylinder saying, oh, well, it makes a ton of torque, but it really doesn't.
The inline 6 is better than the V8 for torque.
Yeah.
It's not.
Which one makes more torque? I mean, our high horsepower engine makes more torque because it takes a lot of torque and RPM to make that kind of really good horsepower, so.
Yeah.
I think the one really obvious thing is cubic inches make more torque.
Well, there is no replacement for displacement.
Exactly.
And oftentimes when we say something like that online, people go, yes, there is turbo. Well, what happens when you put a turbo on this?
Yeah. Put 15 pounds on this and there's 1,400 pound-feet of torque.
But let's talk about the diminishing returns of displacement also. In other words, friction. The piston speed in this thing is ridiculous because of that 4.5-inch stroke.
It starts to take its toll, particularly in higher engine speeds. I've seen combinations of 632s where 615 with a little shorter stroke actually made more horsepower and less torque because of the friction losses in the longer stroke. So gas mileage, that's another one.
Yeah.
Tow rig thing, I mean, it's just not gonna make the mileage a diesel does.
And it tells you that you are obligated to spend a lot of money on cylinder heads if you really want to be somebody, as this is evidenced. I mean, that's iron head versus pretty high-end trick stock valve arrangement big block head.
Yeah, that's a standard 24-degree head, bolts on like most stuff, but boy, is that a really nice cylinder head and intake combo.
Sure, yes. But to conclude the whole thing, I guess my takeaways are, one short block can really do it all. People think that you gotta be really specialized to make kind of 800 horsepower. The same short block does that. And yeah, I guess if you're making the lower end power, you could save a lot of money with a cast crank, high protected pistons, all that other kind of stuff. This has all got forged good parts in it, but there's nothing inherently different about the short block between low horsepower and high, you know, when you're dealing with a 598. And just to lock down this point, we're actually running this thing on Rocket brand 91 octane fuel. Made 850 horsepower and 775 pound-feet on Rocket brand with an engine that I would argue anybody can slap together, because you buy that short block from Blueprint, you get that top end from Brodix, and it runs.
It's all there. It's available to bolt on.
Well, it's a weird episode, but it's still one of my favorites because I still dig this little motor.
I like the 598.
It's a big block. Yeah, the 598 is just all win. There's no downside. So Steve, how do you like my iron head combo?
Man, I don't want you to take this as criticism, because I really mean it, but I mean for a dump truck or a garbage truck or something like that, it's really, really good. All that torque.
I know it's a little hard to actually stand up for it sitting in front of this 850 horsepower at 10-to-1 compression.
This is brilliant. I really like this combo a lot.
I know it. I'm thinking these heads are really good.
I know, the whole thing is. It worked together really well. The single plane didn't kill bottom end torque. And as a matter of fact,
how can it? It's 598 cubic inches.
Which brings me to the next thing. I mean, let's talk about torque, because that's always a topic people talk about. Oh, my engine makes a lot of torque, usually when it's a dud on horsepower.
Well, and that's actually what I wanted to get into when we even did this episode, is the whole horsepower versus torque conversation. And I think it's, again, people don't understand what you just said. A torque motor is an engine that makes more torque than horsepower, like my iron head combo.
Right.
But you can make more torque with a killer race motor like this. It's just at higher RPM where you don't want to deal with driving it every day.
Yeah, horsepower is torque and RPM, so.
Well, torque is horsepower.
Yeah.
Times RPM divided by 5252.
Oh, thanks for educating me.
Okay, so Brule wants to turn this into 900 horsepower on pump gas.
That's practically there.
I know it.
A little more compression, a little more cam, and you've got 900. Maybe
I think he can do it.
Carb spacer.
And if we do, what do you think's gonna happen?
You'll see it on a future episode of Engine Masters.
Not bad, Dulcich.
Yeah,
You forgot one thing.
What?
Presented by AMSOIL. See?
Oh yeah.
Gotta
That's
go.
why you're a pro. I'm the sidekick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I pay the bills. The engine, like, character, the fact that it idles really slowly with a lot of vacuum, it's super smooth, it's just totally drivable.
That's like the not so pretty girl that you can live with, right?
What's so not so pretty about it? I like it.
You know, I mean, yeah, she's got all that friendly torque and all that, and easy to live with, but just not that exciting.
Remember that time we made a video about beating up some hookers? Well, this time we're gonna do some testing that's a little more scientific. Episode 4 of Engine Masters was a riot. We took this header and bolted it to that engine and bashed it, and bashed it, and bashed it. Okay. To find out how far we'd have to go to lose power. And the answer is about that much. And it hardly lost anything. But a lot of people made comments. We read all the comments on our videos, and here's what we saw the most of. 1, some people drew the conclusion that our test meant that exhaust restriction doesn't really matter. That's not true. We also saw people claim that header testing is irrelevant unless you have a muffler exhaust system on it. That's debatable, but to keep you happy, we've got mufflers this time. But what we're really gonna test is the third claim, where people said the reason we didn't see a power loss on those 1 3/4 inch headers when we smashed them with a hammer is because the header tube diameter was too big for this engine to begin with. Well, that's what we're gonna find out today. We're gonna take 3 sets of Hooker Super Competition headers, 1 5/8, 1 3/4, and 1 7/8, and we're gonna run them all on this familiar engine. You've seen it on a bunch of episodes. It is a Blueprint Engines crate motor, a 400 cubic inch small block Chevrolet with a brand new Blueprint block. From here down, it's a crate motor that you can buy, and it makes 500 horsepower. We installed a tunnel ram and 2 750 Hollies, and it makes closer to 550, but we're gonna find out right now what it does when you probably choke it down with a small 1 5/8 inch header and a complete exhaust system. It's the AMSOIL moment. We've been running the Z-Rod oil in this engine every single time we use it for an episode of Engine Masters, and what's hilarious is that I was talking in an earlier episode about the additive package in this that prevents corrosion inside the engine, and one of the audience members made a comment that said, what do you know? Motor oil prevents rust. And I was thinking about it, like, you know what? That's hilarious. So I called the guys at AMSOIL. I'm like, why are you telling me there's something special about this that it won't let the engine rust? And what they said is that a base stock of oil actually has acids in it that can cause corrosion, and that every oil has some anti-rust additives in it. It's just that the Z-Rod is packaged so that if you have an engine that sits for a long time, let's say like your hot rod sitting over winter, it will prevent that corrosion inside just a little bit more than a regular oil. But that's not why we chose it for this motor. We have this AMSOIL Synthetic 1030 because it makes power. Man, not very impressive on the pour today. We have our 400 on the dyno, and this is gonna be our baseline in what we presume will be the lowest power level, which is 1 5/8 inch Hooker Super Comps. And we do have mufflers on it this time through 3-inch exhaust, right?
Yeah, 3-inch exhaust with Hooker mufflers, a fairly long extension pipe. It's really fun because it's really quiet.
I know. Fire it up. Let's look at what we just did with the 1 5/8 inch header. We made 519.7 pound-feet of torque at roughly 4,600, and we made 529.7 horsepower. And we ran the thing all the way up to 6,500, which is past the power peak, because we're gonna look for the bigger headers to maybe add a little bit more power in there.
I think bigger will be better. That's my bet.
Yeah, I think the bigger tubes are gonna help carry, but that's why we're here. That's why we're doing it.
Ready to put those on?
Let's go do it.
So that was our baseline with the smallest header on the table, which is a 1 5/8. Now we need to find out if in fact the audience was right, that this 1 3/4 inch tube was too big for our engine. And then we're gonna go a step further and find out if it makes more or less power with a 1 7/8 inch tube. Now let's get into just the general basics on header design. First of all, there is tube length. People know that a longer tube tends to make more torque and a shorter tube tends to make more horsepower. The fact is, when you're dealing with a production header for a production car on the street, you kind of got to pick from what's available. These are all for a 67 to 69 Camaro or a 68 to 72 Nova. They're all from Hooker headers, so they're all a very similar design, but not identical. The main difference is the tube size. So look at this. This is 1 7/8. Now I move over here to the 1 3/4, and you can see that is not much of a difference at all. And then over here on the 1 5/8, you got a 1/4 inch difference. It starts to look like something. But the question is, can that little bit of a difference in tube diameter really affect power that much? And we're gonna find out right now, first off, with this 1 3/4 inch Hooker Super Comp header. Steve, when was the last time you even ran 1 5/8 on anything?
I didn't know they made them anymore.
I know.
There aren't any 302s or 327s.
Right.
Everything's 383s and 400s now, so.
All right, one down. What is taking you so long?
Well, you guys ganged up on me. It was 2 on 1 over there. Plus you had a ratchet.
You want it?
No, because I'm almost done. You know, you really want to take the back bolt off last too.
Yeah.
It balances the header perfectly on the head. And away she goes.
When you see the different tube diameters, I was looking to make sure that the header is the same basic configuration as far as where the tubes go and everything. There'll often be different headers with different tube sizes just because there's different obstacles that you're gonna hit. They're all roughly the same length though, but I don't think these are equal length headers. Beck, what's your opinion on equal length headers?
I don't think it makes much difference on a regular set of headers like this.
On a street engine under 6,500 RPM, I think not that big a deal to worry about perfectly equal length.
Do you need help over there, Freiburger?
Yeah, maybe.
Really?
I don't know. I might have to break out the hammer.
No.
Dulcich is gonna overcome. He's gonna break out his farmer technique and just school me.
You can get it in there like that far.
Which I did.
Pretty much home free at that point.
How's that home free going for you right now?
It doesn't even turn in the hole.
I know.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I gave it a good shot, but
you failed.
You were
Does it
right,
matter getting the
Freiburger.
bolt in, or does a small head help?
That'll work.
That's a 7/16 hex, that's a 5/16 hex. This can just be easier to install. Are you all good to go?
Yeah, I'm done.
That was easy. Took twice as long as it should have, but was easy. So now we're gonna find out the difference an 1/8 of an inch can make.
In some worlds, an 1/8 of an inch is a lot, I suppose.
That's a happy thing. So what we're looking at here is the difference between the small header in red and the bigger one in black. I really thought it was going to make more power everywhere, and really it only makes more power above 5,000 RPM. Pretty much the same down here, but there is an anomaly right at 4,000 where the smaller header is making about 10 more numbers.
Well, and that's why you test this stuff. We would all suspect, or what you're going to read on the internet, is that it's going to make more power at 3,000 with the smaller header, which in fact is not the case.
Right.
It was just this little anomaly right in here at 4,000, but the bigger header made just as much power at 2,800 as the small one.
So the next thing is to go put the 1 7/8 on, and from what I'm seeing here, I'm not going to make any bets. I think there's a chance they really don't make a difference.
I think that's going to be the most interesting header. Just
really
because,
will.
I mean, what makes it interesting is none of us have any clue what it's going to do.
Right.
And normally, if some is good, more is better. So I think the 1 7/8 is going to be the best. Yeah.
You know how we're always looking at the air-fuel ratio when we're in there tuning? That's because we have an oxygen sensor in the pipe. And that tells us what the ratio of oxygen to not oxygen is in the exhaust pipe, which tells us the air-fuel ratio, or lambda, as it's called. Here's what's going on. The first two headers we tested had a 3-inch diameter collector. The 1 7/8 inch race header has a 3.5 inch diameter collector. That's the only thing we're gonna change. We're just gonna use a different exhaust pipe of the exact same length and exact same diameter of what we've been running. So it'll still be a scientific A/B, just comparing the size of the header tube itself.
You know what? I really don't want to say it, but
What?
the 1 7/8 actually fits better.
This is easier to bolt on. I had just said that invariably the bigger tubes were harder, but these are easier. So my prediction is that the 1 7/8 is not going to change the bottom end in a significant way. A couple numbers here and there, it might be down. And at the top, it's going to make a little bit more horsepower, but not enough to be worth it.
Yeah, it's going to be up a little at the bottom and up about 8 at the top. Again, I reiterate.
Are you crazy?
No.
Do you just come up, do you just say things?
No,
because
I'm already kind of clairvoyant when it comes to header size. I'm telling you, that's what we're
Well,
going
you're
to get.
obviously dealing with some sort of spirits, but
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do with
I've channeled the horsepower. I know what we're going to do. Maybe I should just pull out that $100 bill.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
This looks like easy pickings.
Okay, I'm in. Are you in?
What?
I got cash on this.
I got cash.
What Dulcich is saying is completely wrong.
I'm with you.
Okay.
No way. I'll put $10.
Are you going 20?
Yeah.
You know I'm good for it.
What? No.
You know I'm good for it.
Yes, change. We agree. Little bit of change below the torque peak, not significant. Little bit more horsepower, and you're saying it's going to
gonna
make
pick up
more
8?
low-end power,
By a little bit.
dip in the middle, and then make more horsepower.
Yeah. by 8.
Wow.
Might as well just collect that IOU now. That is a funky shaped curve.
Wow.
It does not like it. This has just been getting more and more aggravated.
Pronounced with the larger the tube.
This is going to be versus the 1 3/4.
The red is the 1 3/4, and the black is what we just did. It was worse everywhere, practically, except for the very, very top.
Pretty much what we just learned is it doesn't really like that header. It's kind of the same, but worse than the 1 3/4. So the 1 3/4 is the pick for that engine.
Yeah. This thing's just too big. It's too lazy. I mean, if the thing were a solid roller that went to 7,500 or something and had another couple points of compression, that'd be the header. But
and all about moving more air and all that. Here's the major thing that I think the audience should take away is 1 3/4 was the correct size header for that, which is what we had in the header bash test. 2, I think it's really interesting, we never touched jetting, and the fuel curve was the same with every header.
More airflow, more fuel flow to go along with it.
Yep.
Yeah, clearly you reached a point of diminishing returns on header size. And 1 3/4 was good, 1 7/8 incrementally added nothing.
You know what, there's not a clear winner to our bet because it's just way more bleh than I really thought.
No, there's a clear winner. He loses.
Okay,
we
fork
win.
it over.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
He has changed.
I thought you were in my corner, buddy.
You said,
no.
I'm your pal, but you said it was going to be up at the bottom.
I thought it was, but
It's
I
a
said,
pooch at the
are
bottom
you sure
with
it
this
wasn't
header.
the way you rolled into it?
No, pooch.
You rolled
You said it was going to make some more torque. Pooch.
Garbage. Pooch.
And so it makes 3 more at the top, and you think that qualifies as a winner when you claim
Well, I mean,
8?
if you had a 650 horsepower motor, then the whole outcome would have been different here.
He didn't know what horsepower motor we were running today.
Right. Okay, well, you learn something every single time.
Every single time.
And what we learned here is that Dulcich is a know-nothing fink.
A Welcher.
His name's Wimpy.
Okay, who can break 100?
Header test.
Yeah?
How'd that whole bigger is better thing work out for you?
I learned one thing at this dyno test that I wasn't expecting.
Huh.
I've got 0 psychic ability whatsoever.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. I knew that going in the door.
Yeah, I should have known.
But no, I actually think that we saw something that was like textbook predictable, which is the smaller header tubes made, you know, itty bitty more torque down below and lost it up top, and the 1 3/4 were the opposite. Not quite as good down low, but a little bit better at the top. And the 1 7/8 surprised me. I really didn't know what to expect there, but I would say for this combination, junk.
Yeah, I think maybe if we had another 500-600 horsepower or more cubes, then the bigger header would have been the right choice. But for this engine, which is actually pretty stout, the 1 7/8 is just a little too much.
But what's really important here is that we are vindicated. The 1 3/4 header proved to be the right tube diameter for this engine, which means that we were not bogus when we did the header bash episode.
Yeah, because if the 1 3/4 was the wrong header, we would have made the same power or less than we did with 1 5/8, which we did not do.
And we would have looked like chumps.
Oh yeah, that would have been ugly.
Yeah.
I would have looked even worse than my prediction on the big tube headers.
It's true.
Yeah.
But you know what? You can count on us looking like chumps most of the time. And as a matter of fact, if you want to get in early on that, you can subscribe to MotorTrendOnDemand.com because every episode of Engine Masters you can get 30 days early over there. Did you know that?
Wow, how do I sign up?
Exactly.
That's the only way I get to see these, you know?
I know. So check that out. In fact, there's a new episode live right now on Motor Trend On Demand. And of course, you can come back here and see us every single month on Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL.
And give us a clap, David. Wait, hold on. You got all over your cheek now.
Oh, I do? Should have left it. Here's the first thing I gotta know.
What?
Where did you get those shorts, man? I gotta get in on some of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I like those too.
Really?
Yeah.
It's almost like we called each other before we got dressed this morning.
Well, I've got the zip up and you've got the pullover.
Yeah, so it's completely different.
Yeah.
6,500?
60, yes, 6,500.
Just take it straight to valve float. It's what Dulcich would do in the car every time.
Do that, yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Is that his rev limiter?
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to rev it until the exhaust valve bends on the piston.
No, they were burnt. They weren't bent.
Until the front bumper hits the pavement from it nosing over so hard.
This is one of those episodes that the viewership asked for. How much horsepower does a water pump kill? That and a whole lot more this time on Engine Masters. This is Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL, where we give you the horsepower tests that you're looking for. This time, literally. See, I actually read nearly all of the comments on all of our videos, and one of the things I saw pervasively is people want to know how much horsepower is killed by the accessory drive on the front of an engine, and specifically people asked about the water pump, and so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to start off with an electric water pump that has no parasitic loss to the engine whatsoever, and then we're going to start killing power. First, we're going to install a wind aluminum high-performance mechanical pump, and it's going to have a performance pulley ratio that spins the water pump more slowly in an attempt to save horsepower. We'll find out. And then we're going to go to a restrictor for the thermostat to see if there's a power difference if you do or don't have a thermostat restricting the water outlet on your engine. After that, we are going to go to the high flow water pump pulley ratio, which spins the water pump even faster. Then we're going to put on an alternator and load that thing up and find out how much power it kills. And finally, we're going to look at the power difference between coolant temperature that is low or way too hot, like 200 degrees. Now let's look at our horsepower victim today. This thing is sort of like a fashion model on the runway because it's showing you the latest in all black accessories. Actually, I've noticed the aftermarket is going to black everywhere that I look. It's like black is the new shiny. And so the whole top end here is like murdered out. Let's start up top with that 780 CFM vacuum secondary carburetor from QFT in tuxedo black. The intake manifold is a Wind Speed Warrior high-rise dual plane factory powder coated black. Then there's the Mr. Gasket fabricated aluminum sheet metal valve covers, once again in lovely black. Even the MSD distributor in the back, you can now get those completely with a black housing, not just the polished billet ones anymore, and a black cap, and of course the Street Fire wires, once again, black. And so is this water pump up front. That thing is a budget-oriented electric pump that you can get for several different applications from a new company called Frostbite. It's a division of Holley Performance. They make radiators, and now they've got those electric water pumps too. The engine itself is a small block Chevrolet, 383 cubic inches. The bottom end is a Blueprint Engines crate motor. The top end we've changed around a little bit from that configuration. It has Blueprint Engines heads on it. They're a 210cc inlet runner, CNC ported. The camshaft is a Comp Cams XE276HR hydraulic roller. This thing has like 10-to-1 compression, 9.8-to-1, and it's gonna make 470 horsepower, 470 pound-feet. It's actually a really cool combo if you've got like a Camaro, Chevelle, 3rd gen, something like that, or even a pickup truck. It's pretty typical motor, and it's a good performer if you just wanted to duplicate this combo. But we're here to try and kill power with it. And that's what we're gonna do as we roll it in the cell. I'm gonna show the oil we're gonna use. We're gonna baseline it with no parasitic loss with that electric pump, and then we will start eroding the power curve on our 383. Man, on this test, I really think we're gonna be hunting for like 1 and 2 horsepower here and there. And so we're really gonna work hard to keep our dyno testing consistent. You'll see us trying to stabilize the coolant temperature, and the other thing is oil temperature, because cold oil tends to not make as much power as hot oil. And that's also one of the reasons why we don't run schlocky oil, because we're looking for that consistency. We've always run the AMSOIL Premium Protection 1040 in this engine, and we're gonna do it again. You've seen this thing before. Remember when we did the episode of the Chevy 383 versus the Mopar 383? And one time we tested dual quads versus 3 carbs on it. Now it's back for its glorious return. Okay, are you guys ready for the ultimate average 383 Chevy?
Ultimate average?
It is the ultimate average motor. I think on this test, when we do the mechanical pumps, we're gonna be looking at power draw of What's your guess?
Oh, I don't know. I'd say 6 to 8 horsepower.
With a water pump, 6, 8, yeah.
That's all it would be for me as a guess. We hardly ever run a complete drive system on something.
I think it could be little enough that we need to do a 3-pull average this time.
Yeah. Yep.
So what we're gonna do is pull each combination 3 times. Even here on the baseline, I think we've gotta do that in order to be fair with what we do in the later steps. So let's run it 3 times, and then we're gonna average the peak power numbers just to even it out, level playing field. And of course, we gotta make sure the water temperature and oil temperature is exactly the same in every combination. Okay, ready for the baseline with the electric water pump. I said we were gonna average 3 runs. We're actually gonna do 4. Okay, we have our baseline now. We ended up running 4 runs to average instead of just 3, and we're averaging it to a whole bunch of decimal points. So horsepower, 471.6 at 5,700, and pound-feet, 467.5 at 4,900. This thing makes actually a pretty nice torque curve.
Really
That's a good
torque
motor.
curve.
Okay, let's go see if we can start killing power. I want to start with like the least power kill and move our way up towards what we think will be the most power kill. All right, so step 1, we're gonna go add a mechanical water pump with a performance drive ratio.
All right, so that's the old electric water pump out, mechanical water pump going on. We'll see how much horsepower it takes. So if you'll notice, I've got a smaller pulley down here at the crankshaft and a bigger one at the water pump. That slows the water pump down. It's called a performance ratio because less water pump speed means less drag. This is about 0.89 to 1. So at 6,000 RPM at the crankshaft, we're only at 53.75 at the water pump. So it's turning a little less than 1 to 1. That should save just a little bit of horsepower compared to turning the water pump faster or at the same speed as the crankshaft.
Okay, mechanical pump performance ratio. What's your guys' guess?
I don't know.
It's gonna kill nothing that we could not call a testing variance, in my opinion.
I don't think it's gonna be much.
Yeah, less than 1. Let's
Really?
find out.
That little?
Yes.
At peak? It might be. I'd say maybe 4 or 5.
I think we're gonna look at the number and go, even averaging 4 runs, it's not gonna make a difference.
Well, we're about to find out.
Torque, 468.2. No real change there. All right, give me the averages and we'll find out what it is, but it's definitely down a couple numbers. So, as an average across 4 runs, it made 467.1 pound-feet of torque, 467.9 horsepower. That actually killed 3.7 horsepower.
Oh,
More than I thought.
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable amount. I mean, it's not going to be 20. It's not going to be 0.
Yeah, but the question is,
4 horsepower or so, 3.7.
apply it to your life, though.
You won't feel it.
No, there's absolutely no way.
Yeah.
So next, do you want to go out there and change to the non-performance pulley ratio or put the outlets restrictor?
I'd kind of like to see the restrictor with this drive and then with the other drive and see what difference it makes.
What we're gonna do now is add this restrictor on the outlet. This is where the water comes out of the engine and into the radiator in a car. On the dyno, we normally run no thermostat at all, but we're gonna drop that in there to mimic a thermostat because that is gonna create more of a restriction in the water flow, and if the pump is working against a head pressure, theoretically, it's gonna eat more power than it does without a thermostat. So essentially, this test is gonna tell you if you lose horsepower just by adding the restriction of a thermostat in your intake manifold.
I think that's a one-man job, Freiburger. Okay, I think that's good. I think we'll lose a little more power.
good thing we're averaging 4 because that was down everywhere.
So our new peaks on an average of 4 runs, 467.4 horsepower, 465.2 pound-feet of torque. I mean,
that's a little bit of difference.
It's a little bit of difference. It's minus half a horsepower, and oddly enough, it's minus 1.9 pound-feet. I would have thought that the data point at the higher RPM, which would be horsepower, would make a bigger deal, but I mean, we're dealing with
even averaging
specs.
all these, because we knew going in that we needed to average 3 or 4 tests because we were talking onesies and twosies.
So far from the electric water pump to now, we're talking less than 5 horsepower. So I think we need to go throw on the overdrive pulleys. Right now we're underdriving the water pump. We need to overdrive it and see if that makes a difference.
Steve did such a good job changing the thermostat, I think he should change the pulleys.
I'll change the pulleys if you drain the block. How about that?
Why would you drain the block to change pulleys?
Oh, we're not taking the water pump off, are we?
No. So we'll watch from here.
Steve,
go ahead.
I can do that.
You've got a deal.
Oh, man, you got me again. Okay, you can see this is a much larger pulley on the crankshaft. We're going to have a corresponding smaller pulley on the water pump. Now what this is going to do is speed up the water pump drive, and we're going to be running this at about 28% overdrive. So at 6,000 RPM crank speed, we're going to be seeing about 7,700 RPM at the water pump. Now that's a lot closer to an OEM ratio, and it's going to help engine cooling. So in the real world, this is probably what I'd go with.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is going to kill more power.
I think you're right.
Am I clairvoyant?
No.
No?
Okay, here we go.
Okay, one more pull with this combo. So our average numbers with the more high cooling ratio, 463.5 pound-feet of torque, 465.9 horsepower. So once again, we're just a tiny bit down from the electric water pump until the fast drive ratio on the mechanical water pump. It's 5 horsepower with the restrictor. So a thermostat and a mechanical pump costs you 5 horsepower at this RPM versus an electric pump.
But we have more stuff to put on.
We have to go put the alternator on there.
Yeah, see what that does.
Okay. Alternator time.
Are you good at alternators, Steve?
Yeah. If you drain the coolant, I'll get the alternator.
Perfect. I wouldn't want you playing with electricity and water.
What we're planning to install here is a Mr. Gasket 150 amp alternator. We're gonna hook it up to try and put a load on it during the test as well. Make something happen to kill some power here. All right, perfect. Then this attaches to that. Super simple, clean, and good. So another thing you have to remember is when you change the crank pulley, you affect the speed of all of the accessories, not just the water pump. And because we've got the larger one here, it's gonna be spinning that alternator faster than it would with the other combination. Should we just put a load on it now? It's a 1-wire alternator, so we can just do power and ground. And we're gonna hook it up to a dead battery and then to an inverter and a fan. We could plug something else in too. You got your hairdryer with you? Okay, now we've got an alternator on the thing, and the alternator has a little bit of a load on it, and it's also powering an Automotive A1000 fuel pump, which is at EFI fuel pressure right now. It's like 58, 60 PSI. And we're gonna find out how much power that kills. This is our last pull. So the alternator ends up killing more power under a load than anything we've tested so far.
It also turns the fastest compared to everything else we've done.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking, is that the alternator, it's not like the water pump where the load increases as the RPM go up. That draw on the alternator is there even at low RPM, and so it's killing roughly the same amount of power throughout the curve instead of the water pump, which only affects the very top.
And again, it's not a huge amount, but it all adds up.
Well, yeah, the difference between our first test and everything that we've added now, the restrictor, the alternator, the electrical load, the mechanical water pump, the pulleys, it's 11.8 horsepower overall and 6.5 pound-feet overall.
Almost half of it came from the alternator alone, right?
Yes.
Wow. So what if you had even more load on the alternator, like an electric fan, electric water pump, and everything powered right up?
Definitely be more.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell when you hook up a battery that has a big load and the engine idle speed slows down because the alternator is really grunting against it.
Yeah.
I think the alternator is a bigger difference than anything else. But then, you know, circle track guys run no alternator.
Why don't they run alternators?
They kill power. I think more and more guys know, and they are running alternators these days. But I think we should show everybody why most of this makes no difference whatsoever. Everything that we did is going to contribute to better cooling, and having cool water temperature is way more important than any of this little itty-bitty stuff we've been messing with.
Run to run, absolutely.
We're gonna run it up to 200, which is what you'd see in a car, find out how much that kills. At this point, we can throw away the 4-run average and just do 1 dyno pull, because the coolant temperature is 200 degrees, and that's gonna make a big difference. All throughout the episode, we were starting runs at 132 degrees, and now, actually 206, 205, 204.
Here we go.
How hideous was it, Steve?
The one thing
Brule?
I guarantee is that this is the biggest change we've made.
Yes.
Yes.
This will be the biggest thing that's happened the entire episode. So torque, 453.3 horsepower, 449.7. So that's down 10. That's not that big of a deal. I thought it was going to be worse. Let's look at the curve, though. Overlay it.
You want to overlay it with...
Overlay it with the
best run.
with E, yeah. So that's just a comparison of temperature.
That would make it an A/B
Okay,
test.
there you go. I thought it would be a bigger difference than that. What we're looking at here is that the red line represents running it with 132 degrees of coolant temperature. The black line is 200 degrees, and I really thought that it was going to be down 15 to 20 instead of 10.
I actually thought we'd see a bigger change down low and it kind of get a little closer up top. But
Why does it make less power?
the air temperature is not colder at wide open on a cold motor versus a hot motor. And when you're talking airspeed that fast and you've only got this much distance, it does not have time to cool it.
So hotter coolant temperature does not necessarily mean hotter inlet tract temperature.
Agreed.
Unless, of course, you're in a car under a hood and it's
Yeah.
affecting the ambient air inlet temperature.
Yes.
But you're saying in the dyno, in this situation where the room's 67, 70 degrees,
Yeah, but in the combustion
regardless.
chamber, you're starting off at a higher temperature, so your delta is going to be lower on your expansion ratio.
You think an extra 70 degrees is
100
actually
degrees,
significant?
yeah. 100 degrees would be 5%. We saw maybe about 3% change in power.
It doesn't surprise me to see about 1 horsepower for every 10 degrees.
1 horsepower per 10 degrees.
Approximately, yeah.
We just picked it up 70 degrees and lost 10, so okay.
Close.
Okay, well, that was pretty interesting. I think my takeaway is that accessories and stuff don't kill enough power to worry about not running them.
Well, they're often a necessity. You pretty much have to run it, and you're compromising your whole drivability equation by trying to do something about saving power that's not really that big of a deal.
I'm probably the only guy here who's tried to drive 200 miles with no alternator, and it's no fun.
Yeah, I know.
It's a lot of batteries.
A lot of batteries.
Yes, a lot of batteries.
Okay, let's go clean this thing off the dyno and get out of here.
That was a lot of testing.
You know what's one of the greatest discoveries of this episode?
I want to hear it.
This alternator bracket.
I know. I bolted it on. I was just thinking the same thing. It's so tight and compact.
I know. That's actually a Summit brand alternator bracket right there. And it's like cheap, super simple, works for the long water pump design. It's actually pretty cool. I like little things like that. But
And it looks good.
aside from that, I think we pretty much confirmed what we already suspected.
What's that?
you might as well run a mechanical water pump because it's really not going to make squat bit of difference.
I don't care about that little bit of horsepower. What I want is capability or capacity and reliability on the road.
Yeah.
Because if something in the front of the engine goes bad, the rest of the engine's gonna follow pretty quickly behind.
And you've lived that.
I know, more than once.
But you know what? I still like the electric water pump for race cars. And the big deal there is you can cool the engine and everything without having the engine running, because you can run water through it and you can run electric fans on your radiator, and that's pretty good. But it then requires an even more killer charging system. But this alternator is 150 amp. Did you know that?
That's killer.
I swagged that off Mr. Gasket, and I'm keeping it because it's good.
I remember when the 65 amp was like the big dog.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That was before you had to run all this electric stuff. But I think the other takeaway from this is no matter what engine you have, what you learned here in this episode applies. A mechanical water pump and an alternator does not kill enough horsepower to make it worth your while to actually change it. But you know you're always gonna run into that guy who says, oh, you gotta have the underdrive water pump pulley.
Not on the street, though.
No, absolutely not. You know what? Myth busting. It's what we love to do here on Engine Masters, presented by AMSOIL.
That idle is like listening to waves hit the beach. It makes me want to go to sleep. Yeah, just,
turn off the fan, go stand in the cell, you'll go to sleep.
I only want to go for a little while.
No dirt nap?
Yeah.
In the city of Syracuse, under the sun, he solved the puzzles, every single one, with numbers spinning in his mind. A genius of the rarest kind. He yelled Eureka in the bath, found the secrets in every path, circles, levers, and the stars. Archimedes reaching far. He said, give me a place to stand, I'll move the world with just one hand. In every shape, in every flow, he found the way, he made it grow. Eureka! Let's go! He's spinning in circles, making it flow. He found a way, he made it clear. Archimedes, no one comes near. He lifts the world with just one hand. A genius born to understand. With every shape and every line, shining bright, it's Archie time. With geometry and pi in sight, he saw the world in perfect light. From volume to the golden crown, he cracked the code, he broke it down. He built machines that changed the game. His mind was bright, he earned his fame. With every thought and every plan, he's the smartest of all man. He said, give me a place to stand, I'll move the world with just one hand. In every shape, in every flow, he found the way, he made it grow. Eureka! Let's go! He's spinning in circles, making it flow. He found the way, he made it clear. Archimedes, no one comes near. He lifts the world with just one hand. A genius born to understand. With every shape and every line, he's shining bright, it's Archie time. He saw the stars, the seas, the air, found the answers everywhere. Through math and science he'd explore, a mind that always wanted more. Oh, more. Molecular energy. With every shape and every line, shining bright, it's Archie time. Eureka! Let's go! He's spinning in circles, making it flow. He found the way, he made it clear. Archimedes, no one comes near. He lifts the world with just one hand. A genius born to understand. With every shape and every line, he's shining bright, it's Archie time. Let's go!
This episode has all the BAM. It's Engine Masters presented by AMSOIL and our very first head-to-head showdown between two engines. This one, a big block Mopar 383, and that, a small block Chevy 383. Now, when you're doing a shootout like this, you really need to eliminate as many variables as possible so that you've got a fair fight. So as I'm going through the tech specs on this Chevy 383, I'm going to tell you about some of the components that are going to be the same on the Mopar as they are on the Chevy, starting with this carburetor. This is my favorite carburetor right now. This is a Holley XP. It's an 850 CFM double pumper. It's an aluminum carburetor. They've got new calibrations in it. It's got features like the billet metering blocks and a billet base plate, and I want to take it home and play with it. The MSD distributor is also going to be used in both engines, as is a high-rise dual plane intake manifold. Now, one of the rules was that you had to use the best possible iron production cylinder head to eliminate the variables of the aftermarket. This is a Vortec head, kind of what you'd find on a 350 Chevy and a 90s Chevy truck. It's got the best port and best chamber that I know of for any production cylinder head on a small block Chevy. The 383 Mopar will take a 1 7/8 diameter header. The small block Chevy can't accept that bolt pattern without an adapter. So what this is a 1 3/4 to 1 7/8 inch stepped header. Getting into the short block, let's talk about the camshaft. Both of them are running the same extreme energy Comp Cam's hydraulic roller. They are a 230, 236 at 50 grind. This one has 510, 520 lift and a 110 lobe separation angle. The compression ratio on both these engines is 9.6 to 1, and now we start getting into a little bit of a difference. The Chevy 383 is a stroker motor, which means that the crankshaft stroke is longer than stock. This is a 350 block with a 4.04 inch bore, and the stroke is 3.75 inch. The last thing that you need to know is that this is actually a Blueprint Engines crate motor. You can buy this long block with the intake manifold for $36.95 at blueprintengines.com. It has a 30-month, 50,000 mile warranty, which is pretty impressive. They advertise this at 420 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque, but we're gonna find out if that's true right now. Ready for your AMSOIL education. The first thing that we're gonna do is break in both of these things with AMSOIL break-in oil. The 383 is completely new, and the Mopar has a brand new camshaft in it. And while they both are using hydraulic rollers, and while most people think of a break-in oil as being needed with a flat tappet, AMSOIL really likes to see it with the hydraulic roller as well, just for protection, and this helps seat the rings, and so we'll be breaking in both engines with that oil right there. Then we're gonna be running them both with the same oil. Oil can really affect horsepower, whether it's because of a viscosity difference, like if you're looking at a 5 weight versus a 40 weight, or if you're looking at a dinosaur oil versus a synthetic, and of course all the AMSOIL stuff is synthetic. What we're using here is the 10W40, and this also has quite a bit of zinc in it for the long run. And in the end, we've got 465 pound-feet of torque and 440 horsepower. And how repeatable is it when you can just do that over and over and over?
It's pretty good.
That's a really nice motor.
Yeah,
It is.
I have to say, I'm going to have a hard time beating this with my Mopar motor.
What?
I'm not hedging
It's
here.
a big block. Here, let's go install it. I want to find out. Man, Blueprint Engines over-delivered as usual with that Chevy 383. That thing made good power, and this poor Mopar has an uphill battle. It's clearly the underdog in this fight, and this thing was built at home by Steve Dulcich literally at 2 o'clock in the morning just days ago. Let's go through the specs on this thing again. Same carburetor as the 383 Chevy, that 850 Holly XP. Same MSD ignition. This is an Edelbrock RPM dual plane intake manifold like the high-rise on the other one. This is 9.6 to 1, just like the Chevy. This engine has the same comp cams 230, 236 duration hydraulic roller as the Chevy, but the Mopar grind has a little bit more lift. It's 0.541 inches on the intake and 0.537 on the exhaust. Now the bore and stroke on the 383 here is wildly different than it is on the Chevy. And so what makes up the displacement? The bore. This thing has a factory bore of 4,250, and this thing is 60 over, making it 4.310 inches. And if you do the math, the total displacement on this thing is 394. But really the coolest thing about all of this is that Dulcich is sweating bullets. He seriously wants this garbage to win. Let's go find out if we're gonna make his dreams come true or squash him like a roach. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually stoked on this. I hope it wins. I don't think it's going to, but I hope it wins. Here's why I think this thing actually has a fighting chance, okay?
I gotta hear this one.
Okay, so it's 10 more cubic inches. It has a taller deck height, so the intake manifold is bigger for more plenum volume or more volume, and has longer runners so it stands to make more torque. And the under chassis header design is a longer tube, so it stands to make more torque. So I think that's why it has potential, and if it doesn't win, it's Dulcich's fault.
Why is it my fault?
Because then you did something to overcome all those advantages and lose anyway.
These are rated at 335 horsepower. Freiburger, would you agree that there's no more famous big block Mopar factory head than the
906.
coveted 906?
Oh, I know, that's why all the Mopar guys are gonna absolutely hate us and rip us to shreds, because that's the single best cylinder head ever manufactured.
This is the Edelbrock RPM. It's the best manifold for this kind of engine combination. I've got the MSD distributor. I've got the TTI headers with not a single ding or dent anywhere. These heads are milled to equalize the compression to make it the same as yours.
There's one way to figure this deal out.
So right now, you're saying legitimately, no facetious comedy, you think it's gonna win.
Well, look at it. It's got this happy orange paint. It looks good, friendly,
Still
and comfortable.
facetious.
You say absolutely no chance whatsoever?
I say no chance.
I say there's a possibility that it makes more torque, but not horsepower.
I say there's absolutely zero possibility that that Chevy is going to beat this Mopar. I'm a little nervous.
I'd like an opportunity to recuperate my prior wager. Now this is your motor. You've built hundreds of these things.
I've slammed that together in one afternoon.
That would be your problem. But you built hundreds of these, and I think that you should maybe have a little better idea of where it's going than we do. So I'm willing to take a chance and offer a little wager one more time.
Really?
I really am.
Oh, I don't have the confidence in my numbers for that.
All right.
Why they call it gambling.
I know.
All right, I'm in.
Okay. What are we gambling for?
You're realistic. I'm the balance of hopeful and realistic, and you're just hopeful.
I've got my 20.
Okay, fire it up. There you go.
Now. Torque on that baby?
That thing run?
The incoming torque.
Cool. It was huge.
Wow.
Here's what just happened. That was the very first dyno pull that we made with the 383 Mopar, and it was a legit nail biter. I didn't know what was gonna happen. We were all guessing. Dulcich had high hopes, but look at this. From 4,000 RPM on up, almost exactly the same curve between these two engines. But the Mopar kills the Chevy here between 3,000 and 3,800 or something like that. Just a whole lot more torque and horsepower. And we have to give more credit to the cylinder head on the Mopar than we did. It must be in the same neighborhood as that Vortec head, or it would not have repeated the same power like that.
I had 453 at 4,300 for torque.
Okay.
And 427 at 5,500 for power.
Okay. I had 458 at 4,300 for torque and 428 at 5,600 for power. And
you'd almost think we'd done this before.
475 pound-feet and 485 horsepower?
I was being optimistic. No, yeah. Freiburger, you take home the dough.
Yep. That was seriously my favorite episode yet.
I gotta say, I liked it a lot too.
Because of winning.
Yeah, because this thing did what it needed to do, so what can I say?
The thing I like about it is that it was pretty legit. I think we went to a lot of effort to make sure that these things were sort of equalized. And what are people gonna rip us apart on the internet about on this?
Well, I don't know. All I know is I had no idea how it was going to play out until it actually happened in the cell.
Oh, I know.
And it couldn't have turned out any better for me because this was an unknown quantity until we tested it.
Yeah, this was really predictable.
Yeah.
I mean, Blueprint knows what it does. We kind of knew what was going to happen, but that was the wild card, and you dominated. It was pretty cool.
I literally slammed that thing together until 2 o'clock in the morning, until the night we had to be here the next day.
Oh, I know. It was genius. No, I really liked it. That was a good show. And we'll have another one next time on Engine Masters presented by Amsoil. But in the meantime, go check us out on social media. Of course, Instagram, the account is Engine Masters. Facebook, the account is Hot Rod Engine Masters. And I know you're gonna go subscribe to MotorTrendOnDemand.com where you can see all kinds of gearhead content. Until next time, this is Engine Masters with Dulcich, the Mopar hero. Are you presented by Amsoil?
Presented by Amsoil. How's that?
Perfect.